Hi guys, it's Jess and welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to be doing my February wrap up. So February was a bit hit and miss for me in terms of reading. I hit a slump in like the second week of February and it lasted for some time, and I just didn't have the physical energy to read. It was really difficult to focus on words on a page, and so yeah, like it just ended up not being the best month. And I was also very obsessed with Planet Zoo, which is a game that I have been playing. And yeah, that took up a lot of my time as well, because it's one of those games that just absolutely sucks you in. And I've been building a zoo, and I built an Australian bit with kangaroos and koala bears, and I built an aquatic bit with flamingos and otters, and you don't care, but yeah, that's what I was doing instead of reading. But I still managed to read 6 books, which I'm pretty happy with. 7 if you count my Adventures of Sherlock Holmes read along, but I'm not counting it because I am reading it in my ultimate collection of Sherlock Holmes stories book, and I just want to count that as one big book when I've done it. So whatever, I digress. Yeah, so I read 6 books in February, which is still pretty good because I am 6 books ahead of schedule in order to finish my 52 books for 2021. And I read 2,246 pages. I cannot read or talk today, so if I fuck up at any point in this video, just ignore it. Like, I'm just getting my words mixed up. But yeah, I haven't had my cup of tea yet, so this is why. Anyway, the longest book that I read in February was Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and the shortest book that I read was Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. I read more female authors this month than I did male authors, and my average rating was 3.6. I read 1 physical book, 3 ebooks and 2 audiobooks, and my most read genre was still thriller, although one of them was a literary thriller. And then I had 1 DNF, which we're going to talk about now. So that DNF was The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, and this is where my reading slump started, because I was really excited for this book. I really wanted to enjoy it, but there were issues straight away. One of the things that really annoyed me the most was how Leo's chapters were written. So there was Tiffy and there was Leo, and Tiffy's chapters were written absolutely fine. No qualms with them. I liked it. Leo's chapters were written like notes. You know, like when you're just jotting something down and it's not a full sentence and there are words missed out? It was like that. And I get that the author is trying to give Leo a different voice, but honestly, I hated it. It was really annoying, and I tried to get past it, but 100 pages in, I couldn't. And also, 100 pages in, the 2 main characters, Tiffy and Leo, hadn't even met at that point. So I had to put it down because it was really pissing me off. And I feel really bad because I know a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I talk to on Instagram really enjoy this book, and they told me to stick with it. I feel like I've let them down, but I couldn't do it. It was driving me insane, and I knew that if I had stuck with it, I would have ended up in a worse reading slump than what I was. So there we go. We're going to talk about some books that I didn't give ratings to because yeah. So one of those books was Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I was powering through this while I was in that slump. And so I haven't given this a rating because I feel like it would be unfair to do so when my thoughts on it aren't fully established. It's a book that I'm gonna have to go back to and probably read again at some point. I actually ended up listening to the audiobook for this because the ebook format was just really weird, and it said it had, when I first opened it, it said there was only 34 pages, and I was like, oh, did I just download did I like just buy a preview? Because it was on offer for 99p, and I was like, did I just buy a preview of this book? And I went through it, and no, I hadn't bought a preview. I'd bought the full book, but like every part was on like one page. So like part 1 last stayed on page 9 for the entirety of that part, and then part 2 was on page 10, and it was really winding me up because I couldn't see what actual page I was on and what percentage of the way through I was. So I ended up listening to the audiobook in the end because it just got very difficult to read it physically as well because I just didn't have the energy. And the audiobook was much better actually. I really liked the narrator. She did a really good job. The characters in this book are really interesting. I do wish they had a bit more depth to them. I really liked Ugru. I really connected to him the most. And I really rooted for him the most. But yeah, like, I don't really know what I think or feel about this book just because my head wasn't in the best place mentally. But it did teach me some things about the Biafran Civil War, which was something that really interested me about this book. It's something that I want to learn a bit more about. And I do think that Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is a good writer, and I do want to read some more of her stuff. But yeah, I can't really tell you what I feel about this book at the moment. It's going to be a reread for me at some point. And then another book that I didn't give a rating to was The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, which I'm reading in this bad boy, just because I want to rate this book as a whole when I finished it. But I do enjoy Sherlock Holmes, and I did enjoy The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I have read that book so many times, and it's got some really good stories in it. Scandal in Bohemia is probably my favourite, and it is one of the most iconic, one of the most well-known Sherlock Holmes stories, with one of the most well-known characters in Sherlock Holmes, Irene Adler. So I really enjoyed that one. The Speckled Band as well is a story that I really, really enjoyed reading. Just because the twist at the end, I thought it was really well done. And yeah, The Blue Carbuncle is another one, just because there is a scene in it that just makes me laugh every time because it is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I didn't give a rating to that one just because I'm saving the rating for the whole book when I finished it. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the books that I did give ratings to, and the lowest rated book is Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam, and I gave this book 2 stars, and I'm annoyed. This was one of my 5-star predictions, and this was a book that I was super excited for. I talked about it a lot on my channel towards the end of 2020, and yeah, it was a massive letdown, to be honest. And it is my own fault because I don't think I properly read like the description of this book, because it's a literary thriller. Alright, and you guys know how I feel about literary fiction. It's not a genre that gels with me very well, and that style of writing just isn't for me. And yeah, the writing in this book, although at times it was beautiful and there were some lines in it that I just thought, wow, like this guy can write, a lot of the time it just made me feel really disconnected from the story. And I'm not even joking, okay? There is a whole chapter in this book that is just talking about what Amanda buys in the supermarket. So it's like she bought this and then she bought that and she bought this and then she bought that. She bought this, she bought this and she bought that. And it was just that for the entire chapter. And I was just like, really? Do we need to know? Do we even care? But the concept of this book is really interesting because it is set to the backdrop of a communications blackout in New York City, and we're following a white couple, Amanda and Clay, who are going on a vacation outside of the city with their 2 children, and they are going to stay in this big house that is owned by a black couple called Ruth and GH. And one night Ruth and GH knock on the door, and Amanda and Clay answer, and they get told that, yeah, this communications blackout has happened in New York. There's no electricity, they're rationing water, people are evacuating, and yeah, they ask to stay in the house, and there's a lot of tension, and I did really like the tension to start with. I thought that something really sinister was going to happen, something really big was lurking around the corner, and then there was nothing. And at times, like, the book was heading towards a bit of a... I don't know how to say it without spoiling it for you, so I won't. But the way the book was heading, I thought it was going to turn out to be more horrific than what I was expecting. But even that just kind of fell apart. And the ending was just really unsatisfying. And yeah, like, this book really annoyed me because it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And it was the book that put me in the reading slump. So there we go. Alright, so books that I gave 3 stars to, I actually only have one, and that is Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. This book is not for me, and I appreciate that I am not the intended audience for this book. The thing that kind of let it down for me was the magical realism. So I don't read a lot of magical realism. It's a genre that I want to try out a bit more this year, but the magical realism in this was just too heavy, and it just made me really disconnected from the story, and there were a lot of times where I felt very confused as to what was going on. But I did enjoy learning about Echo and seeing her grow up and seeing her thought processes change as she's realising what the world is all about and learning more about herself. And I really appreciate the beautiful message that this book holds. And I think that if you are a young black girl reading this for the first time, I think you are really going to appreciate it as well, because it is all about sending the message that black girls can be strong and they can be independent and they can be free thinking and they can do whatever they want to do. And I just thought that that was absolutely stunning. I do wish that the author had gone into more depth in terms of relationships with certain characters. I felt like we didn't get to see enough of that at times. But yeah, I still enjoyed it and I still breezed through it quite quickly. But the magical realism element just wasn't for me, unfortunately. But again, as I've said, I know that I am not the intended audience for this book, so I can't really speak on it. I would just say go and read it for yourself and you can make up your own mind about it. But I did enjoy it for what it was. We have got 2 books that I rated 4 stars, and one of those is The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren, and I wasn't expecting to love this book as much as I did. I've got to be honest, I do read romance and I do enjoy romance, but I never really find romance to be more than a 3-star read at most. But I really liked this one, and I was very impressed with my first Christina Lauren book. This book follows Olive and... oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. This is why I should write stuff down. What was his name? Okay, so it follows Ethan, Olive and Ethan, who hate each other at the start of this book. And Olive's sister, Amy, is getting married to Ethan's brother. And at the wedding, everybody, apart from Olive and Ethan, come down with food poisoning. And so Olive is told by Amy to go on the honeymoon because it was a prize and it's non-refundable. If they don't go ever. So Olive ends up going on this honeymoon with Ethan. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie. I love the tension between the two characters, and I loved seeing them become enemies to lovers, because that's essentially what it is. I really, really liked it. I loved their relationship with each other, actually. I thought it was really cute. And there were just a lot of moments in this book that made me laugh and just made me really, really happy. So I'm really glad that I read this, and it's definitely the perfect book to be reading around Valentine's Day. It just made real life feel so much better for a little while. Yeah, so I'm definitely interested in reading more Christina Lauren books now. If you have any recommendations for me on which ones I should go for next, then please feel free to let me know. The second book that I gave 4 stars to is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, and I really thought that this was going to be just a 3-star read for me at first. I was about 200 pages in and it wasn't really gripping me that much, so I assumed that, yeah, it was going to be 3 stars. However, page 239, and I know the page number because I had to stop and take a few moments to register what I just read. But page 239 was where it all changed for me, because there were twists that I was not expecting, and then after those twists came more twists, and the end of the book just did not stop. It was relentless and it was sinister, and it was just not what I was expecting. This book is just tense as fuck, pretty much, and it's all about gentrification and this neighborhood in Brooklyn that is being gentrified. It is kind of, out with the old, in with the new, and it used to be a very big black neighborhood. However, white people are starting to move in to the space and take over, and Sydney is seeing this firsthand, and she starts to suspect that things are not what they seem when her black neighbours just start disappearing out of the blue. And she knows that it's not like them, and she starts delving into this. She is accompanied by Theo, who is a white guy who moved in with his girlfriend, who I absolutely hated. I hated her as a character. Like, oh my gosh, just go away. That was what I was saying every time I was reading her bits in the story. I was like, just please go away, Kim. Like, I can't stand you. But yeah, so he's joining her because they were going to do this tour together. Yeah, they find out what's going on, and it's not good. But yeah, like, this book was really tense. It was very tense between Sydney and Theo, obviously, because it was drawing upon the differences between black people and white people, and how white people treat black people, and things like that. It was very heavy on the racial aspect, which I enjoyed because it was very informative, and it definitely made the story feel really real, because this is real life for a lot of people. And yeah, so there was a lot of tension between Sydney and Theo at first, which I enjoyed seeing play out, and just seeing how their relationship with each other grows, and Theo starts to realise the kind of things that he's been doing that's not okay and stuff like that. And I really liked Sydney. She really stood for what she believed in. She definitely didn't take any shit from anyone, but she was also very raw underneath, and there was a lot more going on that I really appreciated. And yeah, like, it was really well done. I really, really enjoyed this one. Not quite the 5 stars that I was hoping it was going to be, but still a really solid thriller, and I definitely encourage you to read this if you want something that is gonna creep you out, because it definitely does that. Alright, so we're moving on to the last book of February, and that is my only 5-star book, and that is British by Afua Hirsch. This one, it's only right to give this one 5 stars because it was really informative and I loved every second of this book. I learned so much. This is all about race and identity and belonging. And Afua Hirsch is a British citizen. She is black, but she was born in this country. So she is as British as I am, as anyone else that I know is. But because of her skin colour, people assume that, you know, she is an immigrant. And so it kind of talks a lot about how our perceptions of people based on racial identity isn't always accurate, and it kind of breaks down how people of colour who are born in this country feel about those kind of preconceptions and things like that. And it was really interesting because this is something that I see in this country all the time, and you know, immigration is a topic that is very sensitive here, and whatever your viewpoint on it is, you are going to get into an argument with someone who disagrees with you. And yeah, there are a lot of people who will, you know, see someone's skin colour and just assume that they are from a different country. And obviously that isn't the case. It hasn't been the case for a long time. Yeah, this book just kind of opened up a very important and a very heavy conversation that needs to be had. There was just a lot in this book that I could talk about, that I learned. Afua Hirsch talks about the history of the black communities in this country and their heritage and where they came from. So obviously she talks about the slave trade in the UK, and how that impacted people of colour then and how it still impacts people of colour now. And she also talks about, you know, how she battles with her Ghanaian and British identities, how she identifies as Ghanaian but she also identifies as British. And yeah, it was just really interesting. Like, she also talks about, like, this is a very recent thing, obviously, and it's something that's still happening online. She talks about Meghan Markle, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and how she has been treated by the media and kind of like the racist connotations within that. Like, there is a lot to unpack in this book. But yeah, my advice to you would be to just go and read it, because I can't talk about this book in just a short space of time in one video. There's just so much to unpack. So yeah, please go and read it. It's really educational, and it's definitely going to make you question a lot of things and make you think about things in a very different way. Alright guys, so those are all the books that I read in February, and like I said, I'm pretty happy with 6 books. I'm still ahead of schedule, so I'm not going to worry too much if I don't read as many books in March or whatever. There's no pressure. I'm trying not to pressure myself. It is just reading. It's not that important. It's not like I'm getting paid to do this, so it is what it is. But anyway, I am going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then please leave a cheeky thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel so you can see more videos from me in the future. And I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye guys.